Well, right when we think we have everything established, know everything that's going on in Wayward Pines, this episode happens. Hey guys, Cameron for Wayward Pines, Season 2, Episode 9, Walcott Prep, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. The show has really been impressing me lately, especially with the last two episodes, especially last week, and it really seemed like we were going to war. I was really looking forward to seeing what was going to happen in this episode. And let me just say, to a degree, I was really enjoying this episode when it started off. That was very interesting. But the twist in this episode, I don't know. I mean, let me just tell you guys right off the bat that I think there are certain twists in the show. For me, there hasn't been a twist in the show that hasn't worked. I think mainly because I think they planned ahead. I think the twist in episode 5, that was the plan all along. I mean, that was the book, and they had to tell that story, so they went with the book and everything. And then the one they had in episode 5 this year with Rebecca's story, I think that was planned all along as well. They always planned to make Rebecca the head of the town and everything. That's why I introduced her character. This, however, this was weird, honestly. It was very strange, and all it really did was confuse me, and really made me just want this to end. I mean, really, this was just, to me, this just felt like the writers were like, you know what, we're at the end of the season, let's just serve up one last game changer, something that's going to shake up the show so that the audience thinks they know where this is going, because let's be honest, Wayward Pines is a predictable show, okay? It's not an unpredictable show. You kind of know where it's going. Once you kind of have the formula and basic idea of it, you kind of know where it's headed. This episode, yes, it was unexpected, and it went this completely unexpected twist, but I just don't know if it was really necessary. Did we really need this? I mean, I don't really know what it benefits, because it doesn't really do much of anything, and like I said, all it really did was just deeply confuse me. I just thought it was very strange. I really was not a fan of it, and I might be able to run with it if they would have, focused in a little bit earlier, but to me, I think this just came in way too late into the season. But let's just get in this episode, starting off with, us going into the past, which I thought it was a good setup. I like the way this episode was set up, where we're at Walcott Prep in Chicago, and the headmistress talks to Pilcher about one of the students, Abigail Sims, and she says that Abigail's high-placed parents want the matter to be taken care of quickly, and the father is the lacrosse player at Harvard, and the child will come in December, and Pilcher says that he's planning a long trip at the end of the year, and it'll be good for the baby to be settled by then. So, while I was confused why we're following the story, I was at least intrigued, because I'm like, alright, they're going somewhere with this. I didn't really know where they were going here, what they were really going to introduce, but, I'm like, alright, let's just run with it, let's see where this goes, I didn't know where this is going, so I kind of just was like, alright, let's go and see what happens here. But in Jason's office, we see Kerry warns there could be thousands of Abbeys outside the fence, and she wonders why they're gathering, and spots the other females tending to Margaret, obviously because Margaret, as we know, is very badly injured, and Kerry suggests that Margaret might be dying, and if she does, then it will buy them time, because if Margaret dies, then they might be able to stay there quicker, and they might be able to, be able to take it from the Abbeys. But as we know, the Abbeys want this land to themselves, and it's really not the humans' land anymore, and Jason warns that there's only one way out, tells her to get CJ and Theo. So at this point, I was enjoying the episode. I really was. I was really getting into it, and especially what we heard with Theo in, the in the promo when he said that he wanted to take out Jason. I was really looking forward to seeing how that was going to go down. So he walks down Main Street with a gun, and I'm like, holy shit, what is he going to do with this gun? And he goes in Xander's shop, and Xander comes out and tells Theo that Rebecca made her choice, and Theo says that he's past that, and he doesn't want to talk about her. He's now moved on. He's realized that, Rebecca, was his past, and Xander is her future. That's what she wants. And he congratulates Xander and then says that he's not going to live with Jason in charge, and he asks Xander where he stands, because obviously he's not going to do it if no one's okay with it. He's going to make sure it's a group decision, and that's something I love, is that Theo's someone that will get all the information he needs, and he will go to every single individual to make sure that they're okay with it. And Xander says he doesn't matter, and Theo agrees, but says that he wants it to go smoothly, and Xander can help if it can go that way. So Xander says that won't be a problem, asks what the plan is. He figures that the Abbeys will eventually attack no matter what, but before Theo can answer, CJ comes in and says they want to see them at the mountain, and in his office, Jason tells Theo and CJ that they have food for a month and no medicine. He wonders if they should tell the people so that they can make their goodbyes or fight the Abbeys, and Jason says that Pilcher believed and brought them all there because of their belief, and CJ realizes that Jason's talking about the pods, and we know that this was CJ's biggest fear, that his fear is that he might have woken them up too soon, and he doesn't know if he really wants to operate those pods anymore. We know what it did to him in episode 8, and Jason says that they can return the mountain as quickly as possible, and re-enter them, episode 7, re-enter them and go back to sleep. Basically, that's the plan, is that they're gonna go back into a cryogenic sleep, and basically make sure that they can sleep as long as the Abbeys. But here's the fatal error, is that how are they gonna know when the Abbey threat is gone? Who's gonna be on the lookout? Who's going to be the one to do all this? Because it sure as hell ain't CJ. I don't think CJ can survive this. I mean, if he handles it right, I think he can. But it's definitely not going to be Jason. Jason is not going to be the one to operate all this. You know for a fact that something's definitely going to happen there. So that's really my question, is how are they really going to know when to come out of this sleep? Because how are they going to know when the Abbeys are gone for good? Because I just feel like as much as they try, the Abbeys are never going to be gone for good completely, and I think we definitely do see that here. So then we go back into the past, and Pilcher meets with Abigail's parents, says he wants to leave a legacy of service and future leadership of unconditional love for humanity, and afterwards he goes to the greenhouse and finds Abigail bringing a book. She says that she's handling her pregnancy, and they discuss the book, and it's Animal Farm, and Abigail says that it doesn't describe her world, and Pilcher says that it doesn't yet, which is very interesting because, yeah, very much it is like a totalitarian society right now in Wayward Pines, with Jason kind of being the head of it all. He's the, can't think of the character that was the kind of like the totalitarian figure and dictator, but that's basically what Jason is. And he goes, and Abigail says that she calls the baby Jason, and we realize that Abigail is Jason's biological mother. And then I'm like, okay, this is interesting, but why are we seeing all this? I really was confused as to what is this all leading up to? What's the point of us really seeing these flashbacks? Where are we really headed there? And where we end up is a very strange direction that I'll get to in a second, but again, at this point, I was into it. I was really enjoying it. We see the female Abbeys cauterize Margaret's bullet wound with a burning stick, and Jason addresses the townspeople, tells them he's going to be honest with their enemy has moved close in numbers that they've never seen before, and they don't know what the Abbeys are planning, but they have to assume that an invasion is imminent, that they're going to try to take over, and he knows that, and Jason assures the townspeople that they will begin the process of re-entering the pods, and when the townspeople start protesting, CJ steps up, says that it's safe. Our Liam wonders how long they'll sleep this time, and CJ says it's still being decided. He then asks everyone to go home, wait for instructions because they need an orderly system, and I mean, their homes aren't safe right now. They literally said, stay inside your homes, but we don't even know if their homes are safe. And at the academy, CJ reviews the suspension process with the students. He assures them that he'll be there to make sure that they're safe, and assures them that he's not damaged. And Lucy wonders if they dream, and CJ says that they sometimes do, and Lucy's never really been through this before, and CJ then inspects the pod equipment and discovers that many of them are non-functional, and he finally calls Jason and says that they have a problem, because he feels that maybe the pod equipment might be non-functional, and this was something that I was worried about. We know that CJ really doesn't want to do this again, because he knows that they might have woken up too early the last time, and I think we definitely get the sense here that CJ doesn't want to have to go through all this again. It was so tough last time, he doesn't want to have to do it again. You definitely do see that here. So back to the past, we see Pilcher and CJ check the pods. CJ says they're ready to go with 10 days to spare. This is what was very confusing, is that we go to the pods here, and then we're back in the past, and it's kind of hard to differentiate the past from the present. I mean, when Pilcher's on screen, he's not alive, but just kind of hard to differentiate. We go from CJ to CJ, and a call comes in. The woman tells Pilcher that Abigail's okay, and once he's done, Pilcher tells CJ that Jason would have been the bridge and was perfect, and CJ says they can find another one, but Pilcher warns they're running out of time. Hold on a second here, though, because I thought that Pam basically made Jason the leader of this all, and that she was the one that was told to lead the rebellion because he was, Pam's adopted son. So I was very confused by what was going on here, because I thought that Jason was supposed to stay with them, and from what Pilcher is saying, it seems like he's not going to stay with them. So that kind of confused me right off the bats. Not too confusing yet. I can get behind that. That's fine. This point I was okay with it. And CJ tells Jason that the pods have to be charged, but they are running out of all the energy to the fence. People put into them won't live, and CJ says they only have 571 working pods. And this, I thought, was a very good setup. That definitely people are going to die, and I think we knew this from the beginning of the season that people are going to die, but definitely a lot of people are going to die, and there are only going to be 571 people that can go into these pods, and they're going to probably have to kill some people, we think. And the Abbeys apply a poultice to Margaret's wound, give her some some water, and it's a very interesting scene. Really like the way that's done. And again, I thought this was just really good, setting up for the finale, which is what this episode should do. Since the penultimate episode, it should set up for the finale. So a family arrives in the mountains and says they're ready to go back to sleep, but the guards tell them that they need to go home because it's not time yet. And they literally says that they're just going to stand there. They're not going to go back into their homes. They're going to stand there, and another family arrives, and it's just a lot of chaos because they were told to stay there, and now they're saying that it's not time yet. And Jason visits Theo into the lab, tells him to review the medical files of the entire population for pre-existing conditions and rate them on a score of 1 to 5. Theo realizes that he wants the information to determine who will go into the pods, and Jason admits that they only have enough working pods for just over half the population. The doctor says the lottery is the only fair and ethical choice, but Jason points out that it would harm the greater good, and they can't make troublemakers or defectives, and Jason says that all the first generations will enter the pods, and Theo asks if he's judging them on any physical or mental conditions, and he asks if anyone unwilling or unable to produce is a defective, and says that Pilcher wouldn't choose Kerry. He knows that for a fact that he wouldn't choose Kerry, because Kerry, obviously, we know, can't reproduce. And here's my other thing. What happened to Frank? We know that Frank, obviously, he can't, he's gay, we heard. That kind of just went away, and that's something that I wish they would have touched upon here, because it just would have added, I think, a little bit more to the episode, and it really didn't. And the whole episode seems like we're getting down to this, conflict between, Jason and Theo, and after this, it kind of goes away. I mean, Theo kind of disappears in this episode. We'll get into this, but Kerry comes in and says that Rebecca wants to see Jason. She realizes that something is wrong. Jason kisses her and leaves, and as Kerry follows him, Theo tells her that they can only take half the people, and Jason is going to make the selections immediately, and he figures that the townspeople should know the truth. Kerry says it's life or death, and Theo warns her that Jason isn't taking defectives, and he tried to convince Jason how valuable she is, but he wouldn't listen, and he tells her that she has to take Jason out, and Kerry says that she just can't possibly do that, and she insists that Jason loves her. Theo warns her that he loves Pilcher more, and, that's just the truth. Jason always has been about Pilcher, everything this season, and even though he loves Kerry because she can reproduce, she means nothing to him. That's just how Jason works. If they aren't usable and he can't use them in some way, then they're worthless, and they're just a worthless amount of space to him right now. And I do kind of get where he's coming from, and it obviously is a very, kind of like racist and sexist way to look at all this, and Rebecca then briefs Jason on what buildings will survive after they go into hibernation. He says that he has a lot on his mind. He congratulates her on the fact that she's expecting. Rebecca says it's important, but it's not the most important thing. Says that sometimes they have to do just what their heart tells them. Jason agrees, says that they should go home and say goodbye to the town. He then thanks her for giving birth to Wayward Pines and being such a productive member. And it's a really nice scene because of all the work that Rebecca has given them. I thought it was a very well done scene. Really do love that. The only scene, may I add, we get Rebecca in this episode. Very bizarre that we only got one scene with her, but, that's the only scene we get with her here. And then we get to what I know you guys really want me to talk about, which is the mother of all twists that comes in this next scene that really turned this episode into something completely different and went a completely different direction than I was expecting. So Pilcher goes to a maternity ward in Boise, Idaho after making a large donation. He says that he needs to do what is necessary to get, and he tells the administrator any time to waste, and the administrator says the baby's mother would like to meet Pilcher, and she wants to be sure that her child will be in good hands. And Pilcher meets with the woman, who is Kerry. Kerry's the woman that he's meeting with, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is he meeting up with Kerry? It made absolutely no sense what was going on here. Why is he meeting up with Kerry? What's going on there? None of that really made much sense to me at all. I didn't really get what they were trying to do here, why they wanted him to meet up with Kerry. Ignore my Skype call, please. But that just wasn't making sense. And he says that he won't be raising her son. Kerry she didn't have a thought in the matter and figures that Pilcher isn't from Boise. And I'm just like, wait a second. Her name was Abigail. Why is it suddenly Kerry? I mean, there's no explanation onto what's going on here. This makes absolutely no sense. Why all of a sudden did she go from Abigail to Kerry? It makes absolutely no sense. She talks about how she was born and raised in a small town. Pilcher offers his condolences about the father. Kerry says she's known him since she was 7, but she didn't really know him. He tried to hurt her like her stepbrother, but she didn't let them. And Pilcher says that the important thing is that she's strong and smart, and the strong survive. He asks what she plans to spend the money on. Kerry tells him that she's using it to travel the world. She needs a new life before she can replace the memory she has, and Pilcher tells her she might have one and be a different person. However, Kerry says that she doesn't believe that's possible, and at this point, I'm extremely confused. I'm like, why? What happened to Abigail? What's going on there? We get into that in a second, because then we find out what's going on here. When we see in the present, Jason is going over the townspeople's files, and he looks at Kerry's information, and then he finds his own file, which is marked sensitive and confidential, and he discovers that Kerry is in fact his mother, we find out, and this is extremely ridiculous, and as interesting as a twist it is, it doesn't really hold a lot of weight, I think, and it doesn't really add much to their dynamic. The only way this makes sense is that this is why Kerry was so protective of Jason, and why she was always, there for him, and never really left him. But it doesn't make sense because of where the next scene goes, and it just doesn't add much to the show. Again, to me, this just feels like the writers were like, let's just throw a random twist in here, rather than let's create a complex, story that actually does make sense, and it really doesn't make sense here. He throws the file away, takes out his gun with the intent, I think, on killing himself. Like, it literally looked like he was about to kill himself, and which, again, makes no sense. Jason will not do that, and Kerry comes in. Jason quickly puts the gun away before she can see it. She says they have a way out, and we'll all be safe. Jason tells her that he can only take her half, and they can't let them know. They have to get the ones who are selected up the mountains as quickly as possible, and Jason says that it isn't easy for him to choose, tells Kerry that he loves her, and she's the person he can share everything with. Kerry agrees. Jason asks why she never told him that she had a child, and she says the baby went to Texas 2,000 years ago, and Pilcher chose her because he saw something in her, and Jason asks how she knows the baby went to Texas. Kerry says that Pilcher told her, and she demands to know what's going on, which, let me just say, they both gave an amazing performance in this scene. Both of them were incredible here, but Jason reached for the gun. Kerry hits him with a sculpture, tries to get away. They struggle for the gun, and after a moment, it goes off, and we don't know who it killed. It killed one of them. We don't really know what's going on there. I think that definitely is very interesting. So we then go back to the past, and we see in the mountain, Pilcher looks at Kerry's file. After a moment, he replaces Abigail's file with Kerry's, and that makes sense. Okay, so Kerry turned into Abigail. Clearly, she had to hide her identity and everything, but I feel like there's something missing here. It doesn't make a lot of sense as to what's going on here. Yes, we get that her family died, but why did she have to change her identity completely? I get that obviously she didn't want Jason to know who his real mother is, but it's just really fucked up. I have to say, all of this is just so weird, and so much to take in. The fact that these two characters who were boyfriend and girlfriend and were having sex a lot and were talking about having children were in fact mother and son is just a lot to think about, and it really is crazy. And 2,000 years later, Jason sits in the park. He sees Kerry's file. Mario comes over, and let me just say, the scene was very well done. I really love the scene overall. Jason says that Kerry is just a sort of strong partner that he needs, and when Kerry woke up later, she finds herself in Jason's office. He introduced himself and says it's nice to meet her, and she has no recollection of what happened, which this makes no sense to me. Why does she have no recollection here, but now in the present she remembers having a child? Because it seems like here, I don't know if she was hiding who she really was and she was just a very good actress, but Kerry just seemed way too genuine to be that good of an actress. I don't think that she's that good of an actress to hide something like this from Jason, and basically says that there was an accident in Chicago, says it'll make more sense soon. He reaches for her, she jumps away, Jason backs off laughing nervously, and as Kerry stares at him, Jason says he wanted to be the first face she saw when he woke up. They have all the time in the world for him to explain what happened. Kerry tells him to tell her everything, and Jason says he will teach her everything. He offers his hand, and after a moment, Kerry takes it, pulls herself up. Jason says that she's safe, always will be, leads her out, and at the end of the episode, we see Kerry looks at Jason as he has now died, and basically, this served no purpose whatsoever because Jason was just killed off. So what the hell is the purpose here? I thought this was going to be a Jason-Theo standoff, and no, Kerry ends up killing her own son. He says they taught her well at Walcott Prep, and he dies. So Jason's now dead, and I really think this was a mistake, even though I think Kerry would have been the one to take him out. I mean, this whole plot just doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't really add much to the story, and it's not something they're going to talk about again, so what was the point of even introducing it? Because if you're going to kill off Jason in this episode, what was the point of introducing any of this? I mean, it just didn't really make any sense why they introduced it, especially so late into the episode. They should have done, I think, what episode 5 did, which is reveal this halfway, just like they did with episode 5 of season 2, and of course, the pivotal episode of season 1. That's what I think they really should have done here, is, reveal it in the halfway point, then deal with it for the rest of the episode, then it would have come full circle. This just felt really rushed, and it really just felt like, alright, we have finale to get to, let's just kill him off, and then we can be done with this, and Townspeople gather at the mountain gate, ready to go back into cryogenic sleep. Obviously, there's only going to be 500 something people that can. And Margaret wakes up as the Abbeys howl. After a moment, they go off to prepare the assault. Margaret looks down at the thousands who have gathered, and there are tons of Abbeys just ready to take over the land. And that is the way the episode ends. We are gearing up for the finale, but let's get into this episode overall. So overall, guys, other than the really fucked up twist that really is the thing with the twist for me, it's not a bad twist about it on paper. It does kind of make sense. The fact that Kerry was so protective of Jason, the fact that Kerry never left Jason's side, and the fact that she couldn't have children, it kind of makes sense as to why we got that. I mean, I'm sure she still couldn't have children, but we don't really know why she couldn't have children or what happened there or how she detected this, but if she couldn't have children, how was she able to have Jason? That doesn't really make much sense to me either. There are a lot of things missing here. I just felt this wasn't really that complete of an arc. I mean, how did she change her name? Why did she change her name? That part I wasn't clear on. I get the fact that her dad died, but why did she have to change her name? I didn't really understand that. And why did they even introduce this? I mean, it doesn't do much of anything. You could have easily had Kerry kill Jason because she realized that he didn't love her. That is a perfect motivation. That is so much more interesting than this. For me, that would have been so much more interesting than having them be mother and son, which is just a soap opera cliche that the show really didn't need. You know, I'm willing to give the show the benefit of the doubt, but I'm not gonna lie when I say that this twist was extremely unnecessary. It did absolutely nothing to their story except just make it a lot more complicated and make me very confused and also very unsatisfied. I don't at all feel satisfied by Jason's death. I don't at all feel like this was the time for Jason to die. I do feel he should have died at the hands of Kerry. Theo could not have killed him, and I think if Theo would have tried, he couldn't have done it. Kerry is someone that would have killed Jason because she knows him. She knows what makes him tick. She knows what's going to drive him to the edge. She knows everything about Jason that there is to know, and she definitely should have been the one to kill him. But why make them mother and son? It just is such a bizarre reveal, and it did absolutely nothing. And it doesn't make much sense either. How are they the same age? What's going on there? I mean, I don't really understand that at all. Nothing really makes sense there. It's really confusing, I have to say, and it's really hard to wrap my head around. And, you know, hopefully they don't talk about it a lot in the finale, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm hoping that, you know, with Jason gone, they don't talk about it a lot, because I really like to pretend it didn't happen, but it did in fact happen. That was the main story and main twist of this episode, and unfortunately, I can't get behind it. I can get behind the whole idea of Kerry changing her name. I can get behind the fact that, you know, what happened with you know, what happened with the baby. I can get behind that. I can get behind the fact that Kerry can't have children, and I can even get behind the fact that Jason doesn't love her. I can get behind all those things, but I just can't get behind the fact that these two are mother and son all of this time, and the show's been keeping it from us. Just felt really lazy, and really just felt like they just wanted to add a random twist to hook us in. And moving forward, let's talk about the finale, because I'm pretty sure next week is the series finale. I think this show has a very slight chance of coming back for season 3, but when I say very slight, I mean very, very slight. The chances of them coming back are very doubtful. I highly doubt that the show is coming back. I don't really have much optimism that the show is coming back. It's lost so many viewers, so many people have tuned out because they didn't want a season 2 and they saw what season 2 was like and they didn't like it. I've stuck with this entire season, and I'm pretty sure the next episode is the end of the show, which I think is perfect, because I honestly don't know where else they can go from here. I mean, after you put them into cryogenic sleep, where the hell are we going to go? Are we going to go another 1,000 years into the future? I don't care. I'm not going to care if they do that. And then we meet a whole new group of characters. I'm just not going to care if they do that. And I think the best thing to do is to stop in season 2. But I'm worried that Shyamalan, and, you know, knowing Shyamalan and what he's known to do, and yes, I know the Shyamalan does twists. I know that's a big part of him. But this just felt like one of those unnecessary twists. It's like The Village, where it has a twist that just doesn't make a lot of sense. If you guys remember the twist in The Village, that's a twist that I don't really love because I feel it's very underdeveloped. And here's the best way I can compare the twist in Wayward Pines. The first 2 twists, I think, were very much like Signs and Sixth Sense, where you have these incredible stories that just make so much more sense, and everything we're seeing, it's like, oh yeah, I can connect that. Here, there's just not much connecting the dots for me at how these two are mother and son and how they kept the secret. That just really ruined a lot of the episode for me. But other than that, I really did enjoy this episode. I like this whole idea of us only having 500 that can survive. Who are these 500 going to be? How are they going to determine that? Especially with Jason gone, who's going to be the leader? Is Kerry going to try to be the leader? Is there going to be... I'm definitely sensing there's going to be a bit of a power struggle between Kerry and between Theo. I definitely think that's going to happen. I think Kerry's going to try to take hold of it, and, you know, we've seen Kerry very well. She's very capable of doing this. I mean, she very well knows what she's doing, and she also knows what a good leader can do. So I very well think that Kerry's going to try to take the spot from Theo, but Theo obviously wants power. We definitely have seen that throughout this entire season, and I think he definitely is going to try to take power. We'll have to see how that all goes. With the Abbeys, what's going to happen there? Is there such a chance of them getting back in this cryogenic sleep? Is everyone going to die? I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone just dies next week. I honestly would not be surprised that ends up happening, because again, this was supposed to be a mini-series, and I really think the best thing to do is to end it after next week before the show overstays its welcome, because I already think it kind of has. I mean, this season has done a lot. It's done a lot of really good things, and it's done a lot of bad things. I'll get into that next week. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. What do you think of the twist overall? I would have really loved this episode had that twist not happened. I just thought it was very unnecessary. It didn't really add much to the episode for me. It just really made things a lot more complicated and really just had me with a lot more questions and really just questioning why they did this overall, because I just think it was very unnecessary. I will say, it was better than Episode 9 last year. Episode 9 last year, I just wasn't a huge fan of, which oddly enough is the episode where they introduced Jason, which I think is interesting, but... this episode I thought was definitely a lot more focused than that, but let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which, I will say I love the stakes are high, things like that, but I will see you guys in my next video, which I think will be for Queen of the South. I don't know, but I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.